Hi everybody, Keren here from tuppencecoloured.co.uk. Thank you very much for joining me. This is the card that I've been making today. Well, I've been away from YouTube for a little bit longer than I would have liked for a number of reasons. One of them being that in these very uncertain times, my crafty mojo just got up and left me. So today I have been inspired by a lady named Katie Drew, who posted a similar design to this on her blog. I'll put the information below if you want to go and see what Katie's done. And yeah, so she's inspired me to get back on the seahorse, as it were, and carry on crafting. Stay with me, I'll show you how I made this card. Here's my base card. It's the extra thick Whisper White, and it's 4 inches by 3, 2, 1, and start again. So here's my base card. It's a piece of the thick Whisper White, and I've cut it to 4 inches by 11.5, scored and folded at 5 3/4. And I've also made myself a mask out of a bit of scrap paper. And I've cut that to be the same size as the front of my card. So it's 4 inches by 5 3/4. And I've die cut out one of the stitched rectangles out of the middle of my paper. And I'm just going to stick this on to my base card, because this is going to be the mask that covers up the bit of my card that I don't want to get inky. I've stuck it down with a little bit of post-it tape. You could actually just hold it in place, or you could stick it down with a bit of sellotape, whatever you happen to have handy. So I have this stamp, which is from the Label Me Bold stamps, and I have my Balmy Blue ink, which I will open. There we go. And ink up my stamp. And hold that in place, and I'm just going to just fill in the spaces. So yeah, so the old crafty mojo has been quite conspicuous by its absence lately, and if that's happened to you as well, because we do live in interesting times, as the saying is, then by all means do go ahead and look at Pinterest, look at Facebook, look at all your social media, and see if there's anything there that inspires you, and use that to get you going again. So this now is Pool Party. So yes, we've had a particularly interesting time because my husband was tested for and came back positive for the coronavirus, which was quite scary because he is officially vulnerable. He's on chemotherapy at the moment, and it's quite a scary time, and we don't know how he managed, or we managed, because although I haven't been tested, I've also had the same very mild symptoms. We don't quite know where he managed to pick that up from, because he's been in isolation since I think about the middle of February. Okay, so if I lift that away, as you can see, I now have a nice panel in the middle of my card, and the edges are kind of nice and soft, and that's the effect that I want. So I'm going to give that a little while for the ink to dry while I work on the image that I want to go in the middle. Okay, that's a nice picture of a seahorse. Okay, start again. I'm going to use the seahorse from Seaside Notions for the front of my card, and I've got myself a picture of a seahorse so I can have some idea of what sort of colour it should be. I've stamped it onto Whisper White with my Memento Tuxedo Black, and I have 3 of my Stampin' Right markers. So this one is Pumpkin Pie, this one is Mango Melody, and this one is Cajun Craze. And I've also got my blender pen and a clear block that I'm going to use as my palette. So I'm just going to pick up that picture of a seahorse again, just so I've got some kind of idea. And because I'm working with a water-based ink and water-based colours, I'm going to need to be quite careful about how I do this, because otherwise there's a fair chance that I could actually make my ink run. So I'm going to be quite careful about it. So I've started with my darkest colour, which is the Cajun Craze, scribbled it onto my block, and I'm just going to pick it up with the tip of my blender pen, and I'm just going to test it out on this little corner of my card here, and I'm just going to very carefully apply my colour where I want it. And the nice thing about the blender pens is that they're not too wet, so they won't get ink running kind of all over the place. I will just have it kind of here and there. So now you can either fast forward through this bit to where I finished colouring, or if you want to know what's been going on in my life, then just stay tuned while I kind of burble away while I'm colouring. So it's been quite an interesting time. My husband is vulnerable. He is in the middle of a course of chemotherapy, and his doctors are very, very pleased with him. He's doing very, very well, except for the last time he went for his chemotherapy. He had his blood tests before he went, and they tested his bloods, and they said, well, actually, mate, your platelets are a bit on the low side, and you'd better not have your chemo today. So they said, come back next week when your platelets should be, your platelet count should be better. This is Pumpkin Pie that I'm using now, by the way. So he duly went away, and that was on the Wednesday, and on around about then he said, oh, do you know what, I've got no sense of taste or smell. But didn't think anything too much about it, because it is actually one of the side effects of chemotherapy, is that it can affect your sense of smell. Meanwhile, I had been sneezing, but blaming it on the fact that it is tree pollen season and I have allergies to tree pollen. So there was nothing out of the ordinary there. And I checked up everything online, and everything I looked at said, yeah, if you're just sneezing, coughing and sneezing, then if you're sneezing, that's fine. But if you've got a persistent cough, dry persistent cough, or you've got high temperature, then you should self-isolate and seek further advice. Anyway, on Saturday, my other half's temperature shot up. Went up to, I think, 38.8. So he rang his triage line, his helpline, because when you're when you're on chemotherapy, then you have a 24-hour helpline. And they said, well, are you coughing? He said, no, I'm not coughing. He said, well, you better come in and be checked out, because it could be some kind of infection, not necessarily coronavirus, but some other kind of infection. So we rocked up at the hospital. We were the only people in the assessment unit, as far as I can tell, apart from the staff. And they basically took his temperature, took blood tests, everything was clear, everything was fine. His temperature had gone back down again, so they said, oh, well, you're probably coming in contact with some kind of infection, and we'll put you on antibiotics just to be on the safe side, and yeah, we'll take a test for COVID-19. So we thought, yeah, okay, you know, obviously he hasn't got it, because, you know, surely he'd be much iller than he was. And then on Monday they phoned us back and said, don't go anywhere because that test was positive. So we've been on lockdown. Symptoms wise, honestly, the flu that I had last year was a lot worse. I would have gone into work feeling the way that I've been feeling in a heartbeat. I wouldn't have even thought about taking a day off. So I appreciate that I've been really super duper lucky. So I think I've finished colouring that. So what I'm going to go and do now is I'm going to get my snips and I'm going to cut that out. I've cut that out, and I just went around 3, 2, 1. So there's my seahorse cut out, and I could have left a white border around it, but actually I got my Coastal Cabana Stampin' Up marker, and I just went round the outline of it so that it kind of blends more nicely into the background there. I also stamped out the For You From Me from the Label Me Bold, and I just stamped them in Memento Tuxedo Black. And now I just want to put a couple of finishing touches and then I can start putting this together. So I've got Coastal Cabana ink. There you go. And I've got the little spots from Label Me Bold, and I'm just going to just pop a few of them here and there. There we go. And I think that's going to just about do it. I don't want to overdo it. So here's my seahorse, and I've got some dimensionals. So as you can see, my first attempt at stamping a seahorse wasn't satisfactory. Okay, I think that's enough of the big ones, so now I'm going to switch to the little ones, the little tidgy ones. And can I get one on the end there? Just about, okay. So let's take the backings off the dimensionals. Dimensional backings get everywhere. And let's pop the seahorse onto that panel. And my images from me for you, or for you from me. Which way around do you think? Like that? Yes. So I'm just going to put these on with my favourite liquid adhesive. When it decides to cooperate with me. Somehow managed to pick that up left-handed, but never mind. And I think I'm happy with that. So there it is, that's the card. I think it's very effective. I love the simplicity of it, and you could certainly do this kind of this central panel idea with all sorts of images, whatever you fancied. I think Katie, in her in the original one that I saw, she had some butterflies and she had some sailing ships and some bees, all very, very effective, different colours, all very, very pretty. Do go and have a look at Katie's blog, won't you? But anyway, that is it for today. Barring accidents, I hope I'll be back again a bit sooner than I have been lately. But for now, once again, thank you very much for joining me, and I hope you'll come back and see me again sometime soon. Bye bye.